Hi, my name is Becky Jennings, and this is the Response-Able Parenting Podcast. I give you the transformational tools to stop reacting to your children in the moment and start responding with intention.
Do you find yourself locked in a daily power struggle with your child? Do you fall back into old patterns like yelling or threatening just to stop the annoying behavior? Are you desperate to learn how to connect with your kids, set boundaries, heck, gain some cooperation? If this is you, you need to check out my community. Inside my community, you'll have access to my signature Strong-Willed Language course, where you learn how to regulate yourself, understand and speak your strong-willed kids' language to virtually eliminate the constant power struggles. You'll have access to my workshop library, giving you step-by-step strategies for sibling rivalry, listening, anger and aggression, emotional regulation, and more. You'll have weekly Q&A opportunities to get personalized answers on challenging situations. You'll get specific strategies for you based on exactly what's going on in your home. No umbrella strategy, no umbrella script, no bots. You'll get a personalized roadmap to support you. Plus, you'll get dozens of bite-sized lessons to regroup, stay on track, and stay motivated. It is time to stop walking on eggshells around your children and finally experience the relief you are looking for. Join the community today and let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Responsible Parenting. I am your very raspy host, Becky Jennings. I am coming back from the depths of what I can only describe as the brink of hell. I've never been this sick. I don't think there's a time, even when I had like the worst type of COVID that I had, this was nothing. I had some sort of combination of flu A plus rhinovirus, and together they formed this megavirus in my body, and it basically suppressed my bone marrow production of white blood cells. So I had no ability to fight the virus while it just essentially cannibalized my body and destroyed me, literally destroyed me. So that was a very interesting week. And I will never take my health for granted again because, wow, it was very intense and often scary because I didn't know what was coming. And there was no way to really help me. And so it was really scary and really bad. And I spent a lot of time crying, especially finding out that, my white blood cells were not coming back, and it was very nerve-wracking, and we still don't know. I'm feeling a little bit better, but man, what a scary time. So not fun. Don't wish it upon my worst enemy, but back in the podcasting seat, because there's some fun things I want to share with you. And so let's get into it. Oftentimes I wonder, is listening the first time? People want that, right? Parents want that. We want our children to not be so resistant and defiant and so frustrating when we ask for the smallest thing. And especially it's like things that they have to be doing. Like, we have to go to school. You have to put your shoes on. You have to brush your teeth and take a shower and do all of these things before bed. It's just like, why do they have to always be a fight? And oftentimes, I want to think, is listening the first time even possible? And I don't think it is actually possible the first time. I think it really, really depends on three specific things. I think if we can kind of wrap in our heads what I like to call the 3Ds, we could really start to understand whether or not our child is even capable of listening the first time in that moment. So the first D is distraction. How distracted is your child in this moment? Are they invested in a game? Are they reading a book? Are they invested in a screen, right? If they're on a screen, and if it's a phone or an iPad, not just a movie, they're going to be highly distracted because the smaller the screen, the bigger the meltdown, it seems, right? So if they're on a screen, then you have to really check yourself and see if you can get their attention off of that screen in order to have them hear your words, because those are designed to be highly distractible, right? They're designed to envelop you and just like suck you into their world. So, how distracted are they? That is something that you really need to clock ahead of time before you start to feel your anger rising, before you start to feel like you have to start yelling. How distracted is your child in this moment? Are they able to give you their full attention? Or are they immersed in something that will 100% take their focus? When our children's brains are young, they don't have the ability to focus on multiple things at once. So we really have to clock that. We might be able to have distractions going around and still maintain our focus. That is not something that our kids are able to do. So, how distracted are they in the moment? The second D is their development, right? Both their age and their skill level. Also, their brain development, right? So when we are assuming our older kids have the developmental ability to be able to do something, they should be able to do something. Let's also think about the skill development. Have we been actually practicing the skill at all? Are we assuming that they are able to do something that we've never taught them how to do? We haven't reinforced it. We haven't wrapped it up in some sort of game that teaches them the skill much faster, right? So, what is their development? And then if you have a child who is neurodivergent or has ADHD, I know specifically the ADHD brain, after all of my studies, they are 30% behind, at least behind developmentally than the same child their same age. So, yes, the 8-year-old might look and appear able to do what we're asking them to do, but developmentally, they might not be there. And if it's not something that has been reinforced and practiced and supported in a shame-free way, it's unlikely that they are able to meet your request in that moment. And then the last D is distance. How far away from you are you from your child, right? We really have to be aware that if we're kind of not in their line of sight, we're not in their realm of thinking, right? We can't assume yelling across the house, yelling from the kitchen into the living room, yelling from down the hallway into their bedroom for them to do something, that they're going to not only hear us, but they're going to clock it and they're going to do it. So let's make sure that we're keeping these 3 Ds in mind before we start to get really reactive and frustrated over the fact that our child isn't listening the first time. Listening the first time can feel very disrespectful. It can feel very personal. It can feel like we are not being treated kindly. But let's look at the bigger picture. Let's zoom out. Let's use our grounding tools. Let's calm ourselves down. Let's look at the bigger picture and say, okay, how distracted is my child in this moment? Are they developmentally able to do what I am asking them to do in this moment? Not just age and maturity, but have we practiced this skill with them, right? And then what's the distance? Am I screaming from across the room trying to get them to do something? Or am I walking over to them, touching them on their shoulder, making eye contact with them, and then asking for them to do what I'm asking for them to do? We have a much bigger chance and a higher percentage rate of our children listening the first time if we take all those things into consideration. And when we, as the parent, can really begin to focus on that, we will have so much better success. And then we're not reacting, we're not screaming, we're not forcing coercive measures onto our children in order to get them to comply in our time frame, right? We're actually working with our child to teach skills, to help them develop. And this is actually going to be a much better way of getting your child to listen to you when you are talking.
When dealing with frustrating behavior, yelling can quickly become our default way of handling things. But since you're listening to this podcast, I know you're looking for a better way. That's why I created my free guide to help you get out of the yelling cycle. This 6-part free guide gives you the foundational information to start breaking the toxic yelling cycle. Click the link in my show notes to get your free guide today. This might be the hardest cycle to break as parents, but I have your back, and together we can change the way we respond.
Another thing that I wanted to share with you is I am currently going to be hosting the week of March 24th. I'm hosting 3 free webinars that base everything in play, right? So I'm going to teach you in these free webinars how to take play and use play-based strategies to really break unwanted cycles of behavior, to change these frustrating patterns. Because when we infuse play, which is our child's language, we have such a greater success rate of our child listening the first time. So, I want to share a funny story with you about how I was really at that brink of frustration. And I was so annoyed with my son just asking the same question over and over and over again. I had said no, it wasn't time for whatever he was asking. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my mind. And I was just about to lose it. And then I remembered, pause, right? We have to pause. We have to slow ourselves down. And what language do my children speak? They speak the language of play. So I came up with this silly game on the fly. And he was like, can I please have? Can I please have? And I was like, wait, wait, wait. I lost it. And he's like, immediately sparks his attention. What did you lose? What did you lose? So I'm like, hold on 1 second. Let me look. And I'm lifting up his arms and I'm looking under his armpit. And I kind of pull open his shirt. I look down his shirt. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't find it. I'm asking him to look under the table. And then I finally pull up his little shirt and I bop his belly button. And I said, oh, I found the off button. And I pressed off. And I said, you're a robot who was malfunctioning. And now, boop, off. And he's laughing and laughing. Oh, come on, mom. But it switched the entire energy of the situation in that moment. The robot, the confused robot of didn't know how to shut off, right? Didn't know how to stop saying the same question over and over and over again. I was able to change the dynamic, not only within my body, but within his body. Right now, he is focused on finding something. Now he's focused on connecting and playing a game with me versus asking that same repetitive question over and over and over again. Sometimes I think our children just get in this loop and they're not trying to annoy us. They're just stuck on something and they can't kind of shift out, right? They can't change their scope. They can't change what they are just hyper focused on. And of course, our kids' wants and needs are like right next to each other. So, yeah, they don't need ice cream, but do they want it? Yeah, they do. And so they're going to be hyper focused on what they want. And it feels in their body just as important as something that they need. So when we can kind of snap them out of this trance that they are in through a playful, connected game, we're not adding shame. We're not yelling. We're not doing any of these things that would ultimately, yes, shut down the behavior, shut down the annoyance, but it leaves us very disconnected and it leaves our children feeling a lot of shame. And then they never learned a skill around it. They never learned how to maybe regulate themselves in that moment when they're super frustrated. So when I had him be like the confused robot for a second, where he had lost his abilities and a cog had gone missing and I found it and maybe plugged it back in, right? And he was able to stop asking the same repeated question over and over again. We're both connected. We're both laughing. We're both having a lot of fun. And I was able to stop the annoying behavior and it didn't continue on. Another similar example is my son was having a struggle at school. He was not getting along with his classmates, and it was turning into an issue to the point where he did not want to go to school anymore. We're talking this kid who I can drop off at the front of the school, and he runs away saying, bye, mom, see you later. Like, so happy to go into school, has so many friends. Something was really bothering him, and it wasn't working out. So I brought him home the next day and we started making clay figures or Play-Doh figures of his classmates, right? And we lined them all up and I said, I want you to say whatever you want to your classmates, right? You can smash it, you can pull off an arm, you can make them into a pizza, you can tell them what you want to say. And so for about 3 minutes, it was not long at all. For 3 minutes, he just kind of like went at it. He just smashed them, said, don't talk to me like that. You can't be a bully to me. I'm not a bully to you. All the stuff. He got all of the words that he wanted to out of his system. He turned them into a pizza. He rolled them out, like it was hilarious, right? He's taking these Play-Doh figures and he's mashing them in to some new creation. But in his body, he's purging out all of that stress in a really healthy way. He's not taking it out on his classmates by hitting them or slapping them or yelling at them or doing anything physically harmful to his friends, right? But he's able in that moment to get out some of the lingering frustrations that weren't resolved by having the talk inside the classroom. So we did this. And mind you, it had been several days where he's sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, not wanting to go to school. We did this. The next day, happy as a clam to go back to school because he had finally released all of those pent up feelings that he'd been harboring inside of his body. I used play to draw that out of his system, and I allowed him to process those uncomfortable feelings in a really safe way, in a really safe, contained, playful way. Just him and I in the bedroom on the floor, smashing little Play-Doh figures into pizzas. And he was able to do it, get it out of his system, and move on. I have so many of these play-based strategies that I would love to teach you. So Monday, the 24th, Tuesday, the 25th, and Wednesday, the 26th of March, I am hosting a free webinar. If you would like to attend, go ahead and sign up in the show notes. It's a completely free webinar, and I am offering you so many strategies to help with these unwanted behaviors, to really shift the dynamic in your house and use play as your number one language to communicate with your children, to solve and break these frustrating patterns so that you can infuse more connection and skill and happiness in your household. This is not a webinar that you want to miss. It's going to give you so much insight. There's going to be so many tools at your fingertips. So I really hope that you take the time just to take this free webinar. If you can't make it live, still make sure that you register and enroll so that I can send you the recording afterwards. So make sure that you do that so that you have the ability to check out the recording, even if you can't make it live. So thank you for joining me here for another week. I hope this listening has really helped. Remember, let's focus on the 3Ds. How distracted are your children? Where are they developmentally? And what is the distance between you and them? That is going to help you so much when you get really frustrated with your child not listening the first time. And then make sure that you enroll in this play-based webinar so that you get a lot of good insights so you can tackle those really frustrating moments in a sane way, in a fun way, and you can gain more connection and collaboration with your child as a result. I will see you there.
Thank you for listening to the Responsible Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method Branding and Podcasting.